Buck walked around to the other side of the desk and leaned against the wall, looking at her. She was mean-faced, with thin lips and cold blue eyes, her hair fastened in a tight bun which sat neatly on top of her head. She appraised Buck for a moment, and then peered down at her tightly laced, mud-stained boots and picked absently at debris stuck to the top of her long grubby socks. "Elsie, this is Inspector Buck. He is investigating a number of incidents in the town, and I thought you would be interested in what you have to say. The young lady before us, Inspector, is Elsie Smith. She lives in Mumbles with her parents, and Elsie works in Mr. Gamble's bakery on Newton Road. So, Elsie, tell the inspector what happened." "What about exactly?" "About why you're here today, lass," said Inspector Flynn gently. "About William Bartlett." "Well, he's dead, isn't he?" "Yes, Elsie, he is dead. And if you're not careful, you might find yourself accused of murder. So it would help us all if you were a little more amenable." She looked away. "Tell me once again, if you please, for the benefit of Inspector Buck, what happened this morning at Langland Bay." She looked up at Buck, wrinkling her nose. "Shot himself, didn't he? In the head?" Elsie seemed strangely detached from it. "Dull bugger." Elsie pulled a brown shawl more tightly around her shoulders. "And you were there when he shot himself?" asked Flynn patiently. "Course I was. I told you. He said we should meet in Langland this morning. Said it was going to be a laugh. Said we were joining the militia or something, so I didn't have to go to Mr. Gamble." "Tell my friend here, Inspector Buck, about what happened. Properly now, or the next time you see your mother, you'll be in the cells." "William thought he was my sweetheart, didn't he? He told everyone we was engaged, but we wasn't. I'd been walking out with him for a month, and it was a good laugh at first, but after a bit, he started to get a bit boring, a bit dull, see? I was looking around for a bit of a change, if I'm honest. I mean, a girl's entitled, and if I didn't like him that much anyway." She paused and sniffed, wiping her nose with her sleeve. "Go on, Elsie, I'd be obliged," said Inspector Flynn. "Tell Inspector Buck how you met William." "Oh, I was in that place in Swansea, on Oxford Street, where that Milo is the preacher. Him and Ada Gammon, calls herself Deborah now. It were a laugh, wasn't it? Cheaper than the Star Theatre. But it did get a bit samey after a while, and a lot of it was too deep for me. But we loved it. That is where we met, and we started walking out, and he'd take me home on the tram, but we never went into no sand dunes together, no matter what Izzy Matthews said. That were a lie. We was always proper. Most of the time, anyways. Will was in the militia, see? The Swansea militia. And he used to bring his gun home for a laugh, didn't he? And then we'd go on the cliffs at Bracelet or Brandy Cove to shoot at the birds. But I didn't like Brandy Cove because it was a bit far to walk." She paused, and Buck watched her eyes flicker around the dark wood of the room, avoiding the eyes of the police inspectors and looking for something a little less official and less intimidating to focus upon, but finding nothing. She sighed. "But last week he said we was going to shoot ourselves, and then we'd get good jobs in this other militia, and then we would fight and we'd live forever. Such notions he had. But he got them from Father Milo and that Deborah woman. I think she took a fancy to him, didn't she? But last night he went to see Deborah, Our Lady of Mumbles she calls herself, but really her name is Ada, and give her everything he had, even his watch. And then today, like I say, we was to shoot ourselves, and then everything would be all right. He'd writ a letter," she said, addressing Buck. "Inspector Flynn's got it, isn't that right?" Flynn smoothed out a creased piece of paper on the desk in front of him and read, "I shall be gone forever with the woman I love to fight in the militia of Jesus. Our wish is to be buried in the same grave. Goodbye to all. William Bartlett." Flynn looked at her and raised his eyebrows. "I wasn't going to shoot myself, was I? I mean, I didn't like Will that much, not to spend eternity with him at any rate. So I told him to go first, show me the way like, and then I would catch him up when I'd had a billy whiz in the bushes. So that's what he did, right in the side of the head. Dull bugger, like I said. So that's it. You won't tell me Mam about this, will you? She'd be dead cross if she finds out that I haven't gone to work." She paused, and for the first time looked concerned. "So why did you say I might get into trouble?" "Because," said Flynn, "someone might think you persuaded William to take his own life, that you incited him to do it, or that you're lying and that you shot him yourself. But I couldn't, could I? I was in the bushes, having a billy whiz. Buck spoke for the first time. Did Ada Gammon or Father Milo tell William to shoot himself? Did you hear them tell him to do it? I dunno. I wasn't there. But I know that Will give her everything, on account of he wouldn't need none of it when he was fighting with that Jehovah bloke or someone. He's loaded, they say. In spite of the reassurances she'd been offered earlier, Elsie was taken to the cells to wait for the arrival of her mother.